Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for subscribing and listening. If you like these, please go ahead and hit the like and share button. And if you're new, hit that subscribe button. So, I don't know, I was thinking about what I call these little talks, and I guess they're the little section that I have called God on My Mind, because even if it's the poems that I write, it's and these topics, these are things that as I'm scrolling through and looking at my list, it's what God, what sticks out, what God puts on my mind to talk about. And this one has to do with a talk that I gave at church about to the ladies about 3 weeks ago. And the reason I gave this talk is because God put it on my mind that it could help other people. So these two quotes, this first one is a quote from Kenny Luck out of his book, Risk. Now, I know that book is directed to men, but I read it and I really liked a lot of the stuff he said in it. So what Kenny says, or one of the many things that he says, is that your life will never make sense to you or to the people who know your problems until you let God use the problems, past mistakes, and present struggles to help others. This requires taking a spiritual risk and trusting God. And then the other one is Pastor Warren Worsby. He says, your ministry may look like a failure to you and yet be used by God to help somebody. So part one of this for me was when God started dealing with me on it. I knew and I realized that what I had gone through could help other women. But for a long time, I wasn't willing to take the risk, the spiritual risk. Well, I wasn't willing to put it out there because of what I was afraid that people would think of me. You know, they know of me now, but they don't and didn't know me then. So, you know, were they going to look at me differently? Were they going to shun me? Were they going to shut me out? And we're going to say, we don't want to talk to somebody like that. But I knew that it could help. It could help because for so long, I struggled with forgiving myself. And that was the devil. That was the devil talking to me. And like I said before, I believed him. I had to tell him to shut up, like I've told you before, talk back and take that risk. Once I got up there, once I gave the speech and giving that speech, giving that talk was very hard. And I was nervous, but it was more hard than nervous because it brought up all kinds of feelings and emotions and issues and condemnations, you know. So I had to deal with that. But I kept looking out, and I kept saying, and I kept looking at a couple of friends who I said, you need to be there, so I could keep focusing on them. But it was also that there might be somebody out here, somebody that I'm talking to, that this will help. this will help them. And I don't know who, but God has said somebody's going to need this. So I gave the talk. And after I gave the talk, what, 10 women, 15 women? I don't know. There was a line of people waiting to hug, waiting to tell me thank you, waiting to tell me that they needed to hear this, and waiting to tell me that God loved me. And then yesterday, because this is Monday, yesterday in church, a lady came up to me and she said, she wanted to thank me for it, because she said, while her past wasn't exactly like mine, it was there. And she had done her past. And to hear me, thank you for talking. Thank you for letting us know. Thank you for, reminding us that God forgives and Satan condemns. And we need to tell Satan to shut up and listen to God. And the other part of this from Pastor Weesby is the one that says, your ministry may look like a failure to you and yet be used by God to help somebody. So this has to do with my book, and I'm not doing advertisement. I'm just, it's what's going on. Once a month I go to a certain place, and I'm there, and I advertise it for people who want to come talk to me about the book, you want to get your book signed, you want to do whatever. And I think I started this in September. And I think it was last month. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the night before, or a couple nights before, when I was just talking to God, and and I was just saying, I know we're supposed to be faithful. You don't ask us to be successful. You ask us to be faithful and just leave it up to you. And I know I've said this before. And I was saying, but I need a win. I just need a win. I need to know that I'm doing the right thing, because I tend to, we can tend to say, this is what God wants us to do, when it was actually what we wanted to do, and we're using God. We're saying, yes, it was. And I just said, I need to know that this is really what you want, because nobody had showed up. So that month, somebody showed up, and it was one person, and that's okay. It was a win, because she really needed to talk. And when we did when we went in to do the Sun Broadcasting interview about how we met, and that's a silly, crazy story, and you can watch that on YouTube. The pastor who did the interviewing of us, he started out with my book, and I was kind of like, whoa, because it was supposed to be about the other, but he says, I've checked out your blog and I've checked out your YouTube, and I can see God there, and so again, it's every now, it's like when I get really discouraged. We need to trust God. But when I get really discouraged, God sends little messages like that. I was dropping off, went back to one of the churches that I had the flyers at, and I was giving them a little thank you card. And I said, thank you. I want to thank you for all you're doing because of this. And she looked at me and she goes, no, I want to thank you for what you're doing, because it's an important ministry and it's needed. So, he he sends those messages, and I don't know. I know there's some people that are subscribed to the blog. I know it's not a whole bunch. I know that. And I know that there are some people that are subscribed to the YouTube, and I know it's not a whole bunch. I know that. And so I look at those two things. It says, God doesn't ask you to be successful. He asks you to be faithful, and the success is up to him. And where Pastor Warren Weasby says, your ministry may look like a failure to you and yet be used by God to help somebody. So I don't know how many people, are listening and reading every one of these. I just know that I need to keep doing it because God wants me to. Whether it reaches one person or however many, one person is enough. And as long as he keeps putting it on my mind and keeps putting these little things in my thoughts, I'm going to keep doing this for you. And my hope is that it blesses at least one of you. It helps at least one of you, and hopefully more. So I thank each and every one of you sincerely for listening, because it is encouraging to me. Those are those little messages that God sends me. So if you like it, please subscribe and do share it if you think it's going to help somebody. And again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for listening to me as I go through this. And I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. Bye.